Eyewitness Newsmakers.
We are back talking about the Department of Children and Family Services run through the county and part of really many agencies that make up the safety net for children who might be abused or neglected in the system. Right. Is that correct?
That is correct. The Department of Children and Family Services is the lead in many instances, but it has to be appreciated that it often includes the Department of Mental Health, the Department of Health Services, to name just a few. And the point that Supervisor Antonovich was making is unless we can have interdepartmental cooperation at the highest levels, the children don't get what they need. And we have to insist on that. And that's precisely what we are doing.
One of the criticisms of the department's current policy is that keeping children out of the foster system and keeping the numbers lower has been able to save some money, perhaps, that might be used in other diversion programs. That's part of some new state and federal program that's got a number attached to it, Title 4E, I believe.
A waiver, yes.
A waiver that, is that putting a dollar amount on something that shouldn't have a dollar amount put on it?
The statistics don't report that. The statistics indicate that we are making a good effort in helping these children, reducing that caseload, and putting the resources and effort into helping them to stay in their home, in a family with a grandparent or relative, and if they can't, then to having them be adopted. And that's why I gave that number of getting people to be, provide that foster care, provide that opportunity to help these children. But the statistics did not reveal what the opponents of that waiver were trying to make.
So how much is cost a factor in what this system can do? And when we hear that the county budget, as all budgets are, so completely strained, and you never could have enough social workers to assign to fewer cases that you would like, where do you go with this, Supervisor Ridley-Thomas?
Well, I think it has to be honestly acknowledged that costs are always going to be an issue. We don't deny that. But there is a debate that has moved to the level of ideology almost. On the one hand, there are those who insist that children remain in their families intact, almost to a fault. And then there are others who move to the other end of the spectrum, arguing that get them out of there and do that precipitously, hurriedly, and those are the extremes. And what we have here is those who are pulling on both ends. My view is let the data speak for itself, but it has to be good data. And we have to work very hard to work preventively so that children are not harmed. It is, in some instances, absolutely better for those youngsters to be intact with their biological families. In other instances, that just doesn't work, and it needs to move. But
there was predictions that with all this, that there would be a panic, that more children would be starting to be pulled out of their homes. Right. Supervisor, have you seen any evidence of that?
I don't see that happening, no.
It's a nationwide phenomenon, this panic that often takes place because people begin to shout about child deaths without getting to the accuracy of it. And of course, that does frighten communities, and it frightens policymakers. But we've been level-headed about this, and we should be.
I'm sorry, Supervisor, you were also starting to say.
No, I agree with the Supervisor Ridley-Thomas has said. The facts don't indicate what a lot of the critics are stating, and that's why we did what we had done. And it's a comprehensive effort. One, to ensure that the people who are involved with the Department of Children and Family Services are adequately trained and prepared in the positions that they hold. And secondly, that we have the cooperation from all of the departments, that the lawyers for each of those departments speak as a unit and not fight one another to prevent the effort of helping these children, which we have, which is pure nonsense, and why we've provided leadership. The board has asked for the effort to changing state laws if that is necessary, and if it isn't, then interpret the law as a single protocol, because the child's safety is what our priority is.
An independent evaluator at San Jose State who's looked at this program about keeping children perhaps in their home and therefore giving you the ability to use this money elsewhere says that abuse is up, what, some 19% since the program started in 2007. Have you seen those numbers, and what do you think of them?
Well, once again, we need to make sure that we are comparing apples to apples, and often enough the data is not clean. That's why we are insisting that we are speaking the same language. We're not talking about youngsters who have a history of being in the foster care system, because a lot of times the information that they're taking includes a whole wide range of youngsters. The data that we looked at in one instance said there were 55. Well, 3 of those kids happened to have been involved in incidents where there were officer-involved shootings. And then the others, as Supervisor Alpert mentioned, they were gang-related activities. They were not instances where the parent...
Over 30 were gang-related.
Well, yeah, as a matter of fact. So you have to make sure that we are clear. Otherwise, we will mislead and therefore develop policies that are not helpful to the children and their families.
But it must be hard to take the long view and say we need to step back and look at this when it is something so critical, as you say, children.
Well, you need maturity from the press,
right,
and you need maturity from the policymakers to work together in sync, that you're not trying to upmanship somebody, but you're trying to focus on how do you solve a problem and do it in the best way for that child. And that's what Mark and I have been attempted to do, and we have colleagues on the board who are supporting us because we have a priority. You know, we are the parent of these children, because the government gives us that authority when they have that type of an environment that they're living in. So we want to ensure that that environment is the best. If it's with the family unit, fine. If it's not, then we need to have parents to come forward and be foster parents to these children.
All right, let's talk about that. As we take this break, our discussion will continue right after this.